knows best.
Hi, friends, and welcome back to Brenna Knows Best. I'm your host, Brenna Berg. Hi, how are you guys? Happy Monday. You guys, I don't even plan that, but it's just verbatim. It's a habit at this point, that intro, and I love it. Okay, today we are talking about jealousy, and this is a pre-recorded episode because we have these trips coming up, so I'm trying to get ahead, and yeah. So that's all I have about that. We're going to talk about jealousy. And this is such a complex topic because there are so many reasons to be jealous. There are so many different relationships, and when jealousy is normal, when it's not normal, toxic relationships, non-toxic relationships. I'm going to do my best to stay on track, but I know I'm going to go into a million side tangents because there's just so much, and I'm going to go through your guys' questions as well. But first, okay, before we even talk about jealousy, I want to talk about cheating, okay, and what we define as cheating, because I feel like this is obviously a part of this conversation. The reason we feel jealous, sometimes it's over stupid little shit that it's for some reason we feel insecure about, the dumbest shit, and that's okay, and that's normal. And also, let me just say, jealousy is so normal, and it's okay. It is totally okay. However, I think number one, when you first start dating, and for me, that was in high school and college. So when I talk about my insecure days and being jealous, this was high school, college for me. However, if you are 27 years old and in your first relationship, first boyfriend, you might have those same feelings that I did back then. I'm not saying you're behind. I'm not saying that's not normal. So I just want to preface that in case I'm oh yeah, back when I was young. If you are just now entering dating and you're a little bit older, that is totally fine and that is totally normal. But you are probably now experiencing those things just at a later date. So I just want to make that clear. I'm not saying this only happens when you're this certain age, but I think obviously we're the most jealous in our first relationships because as you go on, number one, your confidence grows and your self-assurance and your self-acceptance. And I think these two things go hand in hand. If you ever listen to my first ever episode about confidence and self-acceptance, that is a great episode. I am going to be making another one soon, probably more along the lines of how to be confident. But I feel like a lot of the reason why we are so jealous in our early and first relationships is because we're not super confident. We're insecure. The environment potentially that you're in, when you're in college, okay, and you're constantly surrounded by 18 to 21 year olds, you go to parties every Friday and Saturday night. That's not normal life. Okay. I guess maybe for some people into adulthood, that's still, but you have a job at the very least, and you're in a professional setting. In college, it's a fucking free for all. You all go to class. It's fake life. Okay. So it's just a completely different environment. But anyways, back to the cheating conversation. I want to first define what cheating is, and this is different for everybody. And this also goes hand in hand with just boundaries. And for example, is Snapchatting girls, let's say your boyfriend is Snapchatting girls, is that cheating per se? No. Is that something that I would personally put up with? No. A boundary for me, if I was dating a guy who was Snapchatting a million girls, you can pop off and do whatever the fuck you want, but I'm not going to allow myself to be treated like that. It makes me insecure. It makes me jealous, whatever. And those are valid feelings. That's not something I'm going to put up with. Goodbye. And I think it's important to have this list of things, whatever that is to you, the liking of the Instagram models, because this is where another form of jealousy comes out. Obviously, I'm not okay with that. If my partner was liking Instagram model photos all of the goddamn time, I'm not chill with that. Again, do whatever you want, but I'm telling you, okay, that I'm not cool with that. And I think you have to first kind of define, number one, what cheating is. However, what are these other things that you are and aren't okay with? Girl best friends, just female friends in general. Are you okay with them hanging out one-on-one? If Carter went and hung out with a girl one-on-one, absolutely not. That's just something that I'm not chill with unless it was a super specific situation. But at the same time, I'm thinking an old friend, I would go with. Like why would they go to lunch by themselves? And okay, like that doesn't need to be everybody's standard. That is mine. So you need to first define like what are your boundaries and what are the things that you are and aren't okay with. And it's hard at first because if you're new to dating, you probably haven't come across every single thing that you're going to come across. Like, for example, in high school and college, when I first dated, like the whole Snapchat situation was rampant. Like Snapchat had just come out. Like it was the only way people communicated. So I might have been a little bit more lax at the time, relaxed about Snapchatting. Well, no, even still, because it makes me feel gross. But especially now at the grown age of 27, in my opinion, if you even have Snapchat, like I'm just like not really interested in dating guys that use it. And that might sound crazy, but I haven't had Snapchat in years. I haven't had Snapchat since college. And so like I just kind of want somebody on the same wavelength. And oh my gosh, I have so many thoughts and we're going to get into it. I have all of the questions written down, but number one, having those lined up, what your boundaries are and what they aren't. However, okay, no double standards. You need to look yourself in the eye. Okay, if you Snapchat boys that are friends or whatever, but then you have this boundary for your partner that they can't Snapchat any girls, I'm sorry, that's not fair and that's not valid. And I think you really do need to self-reflect and say, okay, because it is the same thing, right? I have a lot of girls that ask questions about this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, number one, do you do those things? Like if you're expecting that of your partner, I would say you need to then also uphold those same boundaries, because if you're doing that, but then you're not allowing him to, I don't think that's fair. So whatever the things are, like take a good hard look at yourself and what you're okay with yourself. And then I would create those boundaries. Okay. Does that make sense? Amazing. As far as cheating, and when we talk about jealousy, like for example, a man who Snapchats girls, let's say, if your partner has cheated on you, number one, I will never, ever, ever support getting back with the cheater. I think you're just setting yourself up for failure regardless. But a girl who doesn't want her boyfriend Snapchatting girls because she's just like a little bit insecure and nothing's ever happened to like make her super jealous, like he's never been caught doing anything inappropriate or whatever, that's very different than a woman who's been with a man who has been sending inappropriate photos. He's been caught before doing that. And then you see that he's Snapchatting girls again. Those are two like completely different things. Both of them are valid. You can still have the boundaries around each, but that's what I'm saying with jealousy. There's so many nuanced things. Like when I say some people are okay with their man Snapchatting girls, and like if it's a completely healthy relationship and you know the girls, cool. Like again, there are, it's really, really hard because everybody's experience is different. And also how our past experiences now affect us in the future. Like if you had a boyfriend in the past who all of a sudden at the end of the breakup, it came out that he was Snapchatting 100 million bitches, sending inappropriate texts, essentially cheating, emotionally cheating, whatever. That girl could go into the next relationship and obviously have a lot of trust issues around that. But here is my number one tip. Okay, on how to deal with jealousy with your partner. Okay, and this goes for, even when you're just dating. Well, when you get into a relationship, it depends on how close you are. Communicating, like you have to express, no matter how embarrassing, okay, no matter how much you want this man not to know that you're jealous, because being jealous is a horrible feeling in and of itself. That feeling, I remember like college, I was trying to think of moments that I felt this. Number one, my ex-boyfriend in college, his ex-girlfriend was like obsessed with him, and they hadn't been together since they dated in high school. Okay, but again, at that time you're like, oh my gosh, now I'm like, that was a high school relationship. It was so fake. But it was like very, it was a couple years after, but she would text him and he would always like be nice. Like, she was a little bit cuckoo. So I think he felt like he needed to respond or else she'd lose her mind, which is like valid. And I experienced that firsthand. This girl came into my work one time. Okay. not because she liked the shakes at my workplace, because she was coming in to creep on me. That was crazy. However, okay, like she would text and it would just fill me with this rage, even though I know they would never see each other, even though I know it was harmless, even though I know like he was a devout boyfriend, like he loved me with everything, never even closely cheated, never talked to any girls. But like, for example, oh my gosh, one time in the middle of the night, he would put his phone under his pillow. Like the chargers or the plugins for our phones were, the bed was in the corner, right? Like any fucking college room. So his bed was all the way and I was the one smushed against the wall, but the plug-in was like somewhere over there. So we'd both just plug in our phones and then his would sit under the pillow and I guess maybe mine was there too. And phones, like when you're in college, you're not quite comfortable going on each other's phones. Like up until my relationship, I would say with Carter, my last relationship, like every once in a while, if I needed like, to pull something up, if my ex-boyfriend was busy, I would. But like me and Carter at this place where like all of our electronics are like one another's. Like there's no weird, do I just like go on Carter's phone? No. Have I really ever? Except for like, again, when he's busy, but there are no secrets. In college and in earlier relationships, like you don't quite get there because it's weird and you probably do have things on your phone that your partner doesn't want to see. Well, here's the thing. When you go through a phone, okay, you're always going to find something that you don't like and you twist it in a way, okay, that makes it even worse. Like it could be an innocent text from somebody from class where you're like, oh my God, this bitch is trying to get with my boyfriend. You know what I mean? So like, it's just a toxic thing in general. But anyways, back to my story. She had texted, his ex-girlfriend had texted in the middle of the night. I woke up because the phone buzzed. It was like 2 a.m., which was like weird because this girl wasn't like a partier, right? She was like I don't know. She was just like a little bit crazy. However, she had sent a photo of like her cat and was like, update on the cat or something. And I responded. I went on his phone in the middle of the night. He was sleeping, but the phone was right there. I like said something back, like, I don't care. And then I blocked her. And then obviously he never texted again. And my ex-boyfriend had no idea. He just thought she stopped. And like, it wasn't a big thing. Like he didn't give a fuck, obviously, but I was like, okay, that's done with. But anyways, I don't know how I got to that story, but I do think like because of that, then in my next relationship, in my recent one before Carter, his brother made it to the Masters, right? So they're a big golf family. His brother went to the Masters and the US Open and he's like a professional golfer, yada, yada, whatever. Well, his brother had qualified, I think, for the US Open or the Masters. And my ex-boyfriend, my boyfriend at the time, his ex-girlfriend had texted him and said something about it, just like trying to like, nudge her way in there. And the problem with my ex-boyfriend is he was very insecure and mentally unstable. And I should have known that like he low-key like loved the ego that it gave him, like that his ex-girlfriend was like texting him, like his aura. Oh my God. I remember I like popped off because then I had seen they had texted a few other times. And I'm like, what is the point? Like, I am not okay with that. Like, and I make that crystal clear now. And Carter, oh my gosh, this man would never, like I'm telling you, with Carter, I have never felt an ounce of jealousy ever. Number one, I think because he has no social media, so I've never had to go down that rabbit hole. Number two, I don't know his ex-girlfriends because he doesn't have social media. He never talks about them because I don't ask and I don't really want to know because it only, again, you just like get psycho and jealous. And these are things I learned. Like when I was younger, I feel like I would ask all the questions and I wanted to know every detail. I didn't really want to know, but like our psycho women brain, like for some reason, we want to like hurt our own feelings. And I think we also want to know that way we can try and be like better, or you can understand the things that like he didn't like. I don't know what in our fucked up brains why we do that. However, with Carter, never. Oh, there was one time though, you guys, and I don't think it could classify as jealousy. I was just caught off guard. And this was pretty early on in our relationship because I knew like essentially when we first started dating, he would talk about like the girls from law school. Like I knew like the handful of girls that like he would talk to and stuff, their names. And really other than that, he had no other girlfriends. Cause again, and I also think with age, oh my gosh, we're really going to go all over the goddamn place. But like girl best friends, we're going to talk about that because I have so many thoughts. I have so many guy friends. Okay. Before Carter, my best friend Garrett, right? He's the owner of my dog. Me and Garrett I would be his +1 to weddings. I would go fly and see him in Nashville. Like we have been best friends, but his family is also like my family. We've always platonic. Obviously, I would never, ever, ever, ever be friends with somebody that I had hooked up with. Like that is just so inappropriate for Carter. Like, maybe when I was like single, like, of course you stay in touch, but like going into a relationship, I think that's so inappropriate. And then I also feel that way for Carter. Like if Carter was still friends with somebody that he had hooked up with, no, it's so unnecessary. It's so rude. It's so disrespectful. Again, you can have different opinions, but like I said, with the boundaries, you're able to figure those out for yourself, but these are mine. So I'm just kind of expressing that. However, my very best friend, Garrett, okay, I have my very good friend, Andy, who moved back to North Dakota, Minnesota. However, he used to live down here. We went to Mardi Gras together. Like, I have some really good guy friends. I've always, and I hate to say this, been a guy's girl. And I know it's probably not hard to believe. If you guys know my personality, I'm very much more tomboyish. I'm very much like I was raised by a dad and a brother. I'm just more, not manly, but masculine. Okay. So that is really who I've gravitated towards for a long time. I have my couple of girlfriends, but in the recent years, oh my gosh, Brenna, what are you even saying? With Carter, for example, like Garrett, we catch up every once in a blue moon because he does social media as well. So we'll talk about that. But like our friendship for sure has not like grown apart because I know if I needed something or called him, like I'd go there, I'd be there, or he'd be there. But I firmly believe, have to be cognizant. And like all of my friends, oh my gosh, my friend Austin, you guys, my friend Austin, we grew up together. We would bike to each other's houses. So we've been friends since like before we could drive, which in North Dakota was 14 years old. So really since like 12, I would say. And then he moved to UND. So in college, we were like loosely friends. And then he moved to Phoenix. And then I went and visited him a couple times. He's been here. I know his parents because we grew up together. But he started dating a girl when he last came down here for work. And I saw him and he stayed with me. He had just started dating a girl. And then they have gotten married and now they're having a kid. This was like not even maybe 2 years ago, 2.5. I have not talked to him since. I love him with all of my heart, but like, that's just the reality. Like he's now married and having a child and has a job and lives in a different place. That's another thing. And of course, like I could reach out to him and like catch up, and I'm sure I will, or like there'll be moments where we cross paths. He doesn't have social media anymore. And that's another thing that like keeps people apart, which is like okay and normal. I don't think that we're not friends anymore. Like, and I understand the reality. Like I was single at the time, but again, it was completely platonic. However, he had gotten a girlfriend. Like I wasn't going to go to Phoenix and like go stay with him. Like that's fucking weird. He's in a relationship and we never had conversations about this. Like we just I haven't talked to him in that amount of time. But like that just is normal in my opinion. And if you do, however, have guy friends, like you're like, okay, I had this guy friend I've been close to for forever. I think once you get a partner, like then you'll hang out together. I do personally just think it's a little weird having that one-on-one. But again, every situation is different. And again, the thing that matters is that you and your partner are on the same page and they're okay with it. And then you allow them the same. So like if you have a really close guy friend that you see all the time and text or chat with, like, okay. But if your boyfriend has the same, like you should allow him to. And I feel like girls, like we just are more jealous. Like we just have that in us. And for whatever reason, it's just our reality. Guys do get jealous, of course. Like I've had boyfriends in the past that are fucking psychopaths. Oh my God, my last boyfriend, I had like briefly dated a guy. Oh my God, he was a DJ. He had like tattoos. I don't know what I was thinking. And this was the boyfriend that I had broken up with. So in the middle of that, I was like dating this guy. He lived in a different town. So we'd like fly. And I had a photo of us on Instagram. And again, didn't think anything of it, but me and the boyfriend had gone back together. And one night he just like lost it, that photo was still up, and was like crying. Again, he was like a little bit more emotionally unstable. But I was like, oh my gosh, because at this point I was in a place where like I wasn't really that jealous anymore. And again, his feelings were valid and I deleted it right away. But I was like, oh my gosh, which is again, okay. But then you better not have any photos, which I don't think he did. But oh my gosh, I keep going on these little side quests. However, okay, the point is, especially with girl best friends, I think, yeah, like if you don't have a guy best friend, which I have really close guy friends, like I was just saying, again, we chat every once in a while now, but like they understand. They also have partners. Like it's just life. And if my friends were to live here, most of my friends don't live here. Like me and Carter, and then them and their partners would like go out and do things. That's like so normal. And I think once you get into a couple, like you're probably going to now hang out with couples more. Or for example, like my best friend Natalie, she's dating Ryan, who they've been together for forever. Like me and Natalie hang out one-on-one and do things, like of course. But I think when the opposite gender gets involved, it depends. And I think when you're younger, like I said, we are just more insecure and not confident. So I think jealousy comes out more in that moment. But now in my older age, like I'm trying to think, Carter doesn't have any girlfriends, but if he did, again, I think I would be there with them. Like Carter would never just like go and hang out with a girl. Carter and I have also had the conversations. Oh my gosh, we had this conversation like in week 2 of dating when we did the cards at the picnic about infidelity and things. I was explaining that one of my friend's dads is a founder. He's a very successful man, and he has rules that even on like a business dinner, if he's meeting with a woman, okay, and it's strictly work, he will always bring another man with him. Like he will not be in a one-on-one setting with a woman ever. You guys, they've been married since they were 19. They have 2 kids that are now like 30 and 27. And he still to this day, like he's like, it's just, I don't want to be perceived as a man who's having dinner with another woman who isn't my wife. And I just like don't want anybody getting the wrong idea. But once I heard that and I was talking to Carter about it, I'm like, I really like that. Like, it's just respectful. Like, it's not that fucking hard. And I think a lot of this with jealousy comes down to, and not only ourselves are we young in relationships, so like we're just more jealous. Men, when they're younger, are so much more immature and just like fucking assholes. Like an 18-year-old boy in college, like, yeah, I'm gonna Snapchat a million girls and do, like, they don't have the respect that like a man does. You know what I mean? So that's another struggle with dating when you're younger. Like, they're fucking little bitches, and they're like, I'd rather get attention from 100 girls than like show my girlfriend that I love her. And that's just like another age thing, which I'm not excusing that behavior, but I think it's just like way more common in college and just in younger relationships in general. Does that make sense? Okay, let's like really talk about though how to stop being jealous. Like if you're however old, doesn't matter. Even if you have been in relationships for a long time, but you still struggle with jealousy, normal. Step number 1 is to understand that it's so normal and so okay. And it's an icky feeling. Nobody likes feeling jealous. Like it is just gross because number 1, like, you know that you were hot and you were kind and you were funny and you were smart and that you are amazing. But in these moments where, like, let's say you see a Snapchat come in from a girl on your boyfriend's phone and you don't know who that is. You're like, oh my gosh, like it just invokes all of these. It's like, is he cheating? Like, is she prettier than me? Like all of these things. And it's just a nasty ass feeling. But knowing that it's so normal and so okay, step 1. Okay. And recognizing what it is, that it's just like jealousy. And sometimes it's not rational. A lot of times it isn't. And also understanding that a lot of the times it has more to do with us than that person. Again, this is what I was saying earlier. Now, if your partner has been shady as fuck, has done things to hurt you before, talks to a million girls, okay, you know that he's the town slut, then your feelings are way more valid. It doesn't matter. The feelings being valid does not matter, but I'm just saying, Okay, some people have like way more of a reason to be jealous and then have all of these like fears and things come to the surface. But if you're just like in a normal relationship and nothing's ever gone wrong, but let's say in a past relationship you were wronged, or even nothing has happened to you, but like you just don't like the thought of your boyfriend talking to another girl because that's normal, totally normal. Step one, recognizing that it's real, it's a thing, jealousy happens, but it can get to an unhealthy point. Okay, I think jealousy is like normal and healthy, but it comes a point where it like takes over your life, and then that's where it's not okay. Step number two, okay, when you feel jealous, communicate that with your partner always, and no matter how irrational. Okay, if he's going out with the boys to a bar, but even the idea of him being around girls at a bar, like that makes you feel jealous and gross and weird, like communicate that. Don't say you can't go. Like, don't be a psycho, don't attack. Okay, because that's just like never healthy in general or helpful. But I would just like always, when you feel those feelings, bring it up to your partner. Be like, I'm working through this. Like, I know that maybe it's not rational, but I still feel jealous and insecure, whatever the thing is. Just communicate. Like, there doesn't need to be a plan of action. Again, do not try and control your partner. Again, like, here's the thing. If he has a million girl best friends, like, what you do is, if your boundary, like you're just not okay with that, quit making yourself go crazy. You have a conversation. You say, hey, like, I get it. You have these girl best friends, like, but for myself personally, like, I just don't like that. And I personally don't have guy best friends. I think it's a little bit like inappropriate. I feel like at times, I feel it's disrespectful. So, you can have those, like, if they are really that important to you, go ahead. But if you know yourself and like, you're always going to lose your mind over these things and be jealous and like not be okay with it, you say, I either like have to walk away or something needs to change, because like I can't keep killing myself, and that's okay. And some people might say that's insecure and that's dumb. You should let your partner have friends, but there are boundaries. And like some of us, there are people out there that are okay with that. And like that person should go be with that person then, like the girl who doesn't give a fuck. But if you are a girl who gives a fuck, I'm that girl, like that's okay and that's normal. And there will be a guy out there that doesn't. Like I found Carter, like he doesn't go out. He doesn't have a million girl best friends or any girlfriends really, for that matter. I mean, he will once he is in work again. It's kind of our environment right now, but that's okay. And you'll find that person, but you cannot sit and like beat yourself up every day and be jealous constantly day in, day out. That's not healthy for anybody. And that's going to trickle into other things in your relationship anyways. So step number two, communicate. Because the second, and this is another thing when you're young and when you're in your first relationships, we feel jealous or we have these things, but we don't want to be crazy. Okay, we want to be cool. We don't want to like have them think that we're insecure or jealous. So then we hold it in and we lose our goddamn minds, and then it either comes out all at once, okay, which is so not helpful, or like it just slowly eats you alive. And with the right person, like you bringing that up and saying, hey, this makes me jealous. I'm trying to like get over it and figure it out, but I just want you to know that these are my feelings. So like maybe a little more reassurance or whatever that is you need. The right person will reassure you till the day they die. They will try and help you through those feelings. Be like, okay, babe, like, totally. I'll text you every hour when I'm out or whatever the thing is. Like the right person will never think you're crazy or jealous. So I'm telling you that the right person will always validate you and try and help you. If your person or your partner is calling you crazy or whatever, when you are literally just saying like, hey, this makes me feel jealous. And I think the earlier you can say it, the less emotion there will be. So it can be like a calm conversation. And even not, if it's like an emotional thing, that's okay. But again, I just try and challenge you not to attack them, because what they're doing isn't wrong. Like them going out, your partner going out, they can do that and that's normal. However, I will say, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying before, if you are a person, like let's say your partner goes out and it makes you jealous or it makes you whatever, and you're a person who doesn't go out, so there's a layer there of like probably resentment. For example, this is so me. Okay. My boyfriend in college loved to go out and get drunk, and there was this group of friends that he'd always hang out with, and they were a bunch of stoners, and like that's just not me. And I would stay home, but I would be so annoyed that he's there, which like that was his right. He wasn't doing anything wrong, but I'm not a going out person, so I'm just like, fucking losers. Like again, is what I'm saying valid? No, but like that's how I felt in the moment, And that was just like a compatibility issue. Like he liked going out and I didn't. So it like invoked all of these feelings in me. Not only jealousy of the potential of, I don't know, an ex being there or some girl or like whatever, but just the fact that like I didn't like going out, but he wanted to. Like there are layers to it. Like sometimes it's just jealousy. A lot of the times it's like multiple things. Does that make sense? But that's why I say step number 2, communicate. And I've been recently watching John Deloney. Okay, he's a psychologist. He's a doctor of some sort. I'm getting that wrong. You've probably seen his clips and I've talked about him before, but I've been watching his YouTube videos and he always says in all of his videos, do not keep secrets. Like the longer you let something sit and fester inside of you, the worse it gets for you and your partner, because they have no idea that you're sitting here feeling this way. So the best thing that you can do is just like tell them how you're feeling, and then you guys can talk through it together. Step number 3. Okay. Take care of the things that you can control, okay? Jealousy oftentimes comes from our insecurities and our lack of confidence. Like that's just fact. If it's coming down to a certain girl, like let's say your boyfriend has this girl, female friend, not even like best friend, or like a girl in class that sits next to and she's gorgeous, right? Like there is always going to be somebody pretty or somebody funny or somebody smarter than you. Okay. Like that is life. There are always going to be these people, and your boyfriend, your partner is going to come across these people, but you are unique. You are the whole package in and of itself. Your partner is with you. Okay. Number 1, full stop. Your partner chose you. If that is your boyfriend, they want to be with you. And oftentimes jealousy comes from comparison. Like we start comparing ourselves. So like this girl's really pretty. Number 1, you know the absolute worst parts of yourself. Okay, we know our absolute every single fault. When we compare ourselves to somebody we barely know and just their looks or just whatever the thing is, we don't know all of those underneath things about them as well. Like we are all human beings. Nobody is better than one another. Like we oftentimes hyper focus, or if it's like jealousy over social media, you are seeing somebody one-dimensionally. Like you are literally seeing a photo of this person and then just throwing things at them and creating a version, kind of like we create men in our head. Like when you start dating a boy, you're like, oh my God, he's like the best thing ever. And you like make a fake human being in your head. We do this with girls. Like when we compare ourselves to girls on the internet that maybe your boyfriend's liked your photo or is friends with or whatever, like you are literally just seeing a straight, normal, one-dimensional photo and saying she's funny and she's got a great personality and she's like the nicest person ever and she's the prettiest. Like you know nothing about this person. So like hone it in. Okay, what can you control? And can you work on your confidence and your self-acceptance, and also just like work on ourselves in general? Eating right, working out, getting enough sleep, okay, getting your education, like whatever the things are. Working on yourself is always going to benefit you. It's going to help with your jealousy. It's going to help with so many things. So we go a little crazy and we go psychoanalysis, analyze. Bitch, what? Analyze? I don't even think that's what I was trying to say, but it doesn't matter. We like go in and become obsessed. Like let's say your partner's ex-girlfriend. Oh my gosh, retroactive jealousy. We'll talk about that. We just like hyper fixate on this person. And it's like, number 1, that's not healthy. But number 2, like you could be putting that energy into yourself and like what you can control. And also get the fuck off of social media. Like when you find yourself in these moments of jealousy, if it's like a specific person or thing, and then you start, going through the following and whatever, log off. Just fucking log off for a goddamn minute and get it together. Okay. And we're going to talk about that more when we talk about the comparison of like our lives, not so much in relationships. Like social media can be so horrible. And I think when I was in college, this is where a lot of my jealousy came from. And I think it compounds. Like, for example, when you are not confident and you're insecure just about anything. Like when I was in college, for example, I obviously was working like 60 hours a week because I had to. I've always financially supported myself, but I would log on to Instagram and I would see fucking this rich bitch whose parents, she went to Cabo for Thanksgiving and she went here, and that shit just like made me so mad just because of the situation I was born into, which is like, it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about that, but that is so toxic. So number one, like let's say I'm, every single day I hop on Instagram and there are girls prettier than me and this person who's flying on this vacation and doing this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm working this job 100 hours a week. Like I'm exhausted. I'm not that pretty, yada, yada. And then there's something that happens with a boyfriend and it makes you jealous, this girl, but you were already feeling all of these things and down about yourself from something completely unrelated. Like it all compounds. So that's what I'm saying. When you can work on yourself, and everybody can read self-help books. Oh my gosh, that saved my life. I worked for Herbalife. Not really, but Herbalife is an MLM, but they have these shake shops. That was my college job. Well, they started like recruiting and I started going to all of like these work things, and they're like self-help gurus, and low key, fuck the MLMs. Like obviously that shit's crazy. However, one of the best things that came from that was them introducing me to self-help and self-help books and Tony Robbins and like speakers, because the second I started picking up self-help books, Girl Wash Your Face, that was like really popular at the time, which I know people hate her. I don't know why she got canceled, but I still think it's a solid book. Atomic Habits, all of those sort of things. And like once I started hyper focusing on making myself a better person, like getting more confident and just bettering myself however I could at the moment with the money that I had, with the resources. Not only was then I putting my energy into that, so I wasn't then comparing myself on social media, it also taught me to stop fucking following people on social media that I don't give a tit about and that make me feel shit about myself. Okay. But also like the better that you get and more confident and less insecure, like I'm telling you, the jealousy and those sort of things just fade away. And also, oh my gosh, you guys, it just all goes hand in hand. Like once you get more confident, you are way better able to like bring things up to your partner. Like when I think of sad, little insecure, not confident Brenna, like she was so scared to bring things up to her boyfriend. Number one, what if he breaks up with me? What if he gets mad at me? What if he calls me crazy or whatever? Like, so then I wouldn't bring things up. But that was because I was like so not confident in who I was and what I was feeling. But once you get more confident and more self-sufficient and, or whatever the words are that you want to use, like you're a better partner. Like you're able to bring things up because you're like, no, my feelings are valid. And like, you're more confident in yourself. So you vouch for yourself. And I think it all just like intertwines. Okay. Sorry, Brenna's preaching for a little bit, but do you get what I'm saying? So step 3, prioritizing just your mental health, your physical health, like that will always, always, always benefit your life. And it goes to every single topic that I've ever talked about. Okay. It's so important. Do you hear me? It's so important. And then really just step number 4, I think remembering who you are and all of the things you bring to the table. Like we are all complex, unique individuals. And again, your boyfriend or your partner is with you for a reason. Or also when it comes to like comparing your life, like sure, on Instagram, it looks like Lucy is living her best life because her and her husband bought a house and have 3 kids, but like who gives a fuck about Lucy? And also let me remind you, what you see on social media isn't real. Lucy could cry herself to sleep every night because Jason, her husband, is a fucking asshole and he cheats on her. Like, and I know that's like such a negative, like horrible thing to say, but like it's so true. There are so many people online that we compare ourselves to, and then it comes out later that it wasn't what it thought, but you spent so much time comparing yourself and thinking and building up those people or that person or whatever when really you have no idea. So like, why focus your energy on that when you can focus on yourself? And honestly, like I think I'm the perfect example because when I look around, like, yeah, if I were to sit here and compare myself to other people, I'm 27, like everybody in my hometown is married, they have kids, they probably bought a house because in Bismarck, North Dakota, the houses are fucking cheaper than shit. But I live in an apartment, which on the outside looking in, somebody would be like, oh my gosh, she doesn't own a house. She's not married. She doesn't have kids. But like, I am quite literally the happiest person in the world. Like I am so content because I focus on me and my happiness and being present. And like also, oh my gosh, sorry. We want a lot of things. Like we think that once we make $1 million and once we have the kids and that we're married, that life is just going to be amazing. And that is just straight up not the case. A lot of us in our life are chasing these things and like literally you get there and you're like, oh, this is it. You know what I'm saying? So like not only comparing yourself to other people, like you might be 25 years old and like, I just am dying to have kids, which I'm sure would be great. But also we get so hung up. And I think a lot of people, and I'm sorry, this is going to be a little bit crazy to say, but like so many women like want kids. Like that is their number one goal. And they fucking settle down with Joe Schmo, who's an asshole and treats her like shit, but she just wanted kids so bad. So she picked the first guy. Well, yeah, you might have the kids now, but you're so miserable in your marriage. So it's like, take a second, be present. And like, this is why I've always focused on my happiness right now. Like, what can I do in this moment to be happy? And that's why I'm so fulfilled right now. It's funny because my friend Austin, who I was talking about, he had offered me a job or an interview at this job he had just gotten because they were based out of Dallas. And I was thinking about moving to Phoenix at the time to live with him. This was a little while back. And I was working my real estate job at the time and I was living in the house with May dog. And he was like asking me about my goals and things. And of course I have like loose goals, but he was like, okay, Brenna, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was like, so you're telling me if you lived today every single day for the rest of your life, you'd be happy with that? And I was like, yes. Like I was so content. And I feel like in my adult life at every single moment, I've been really happy at that moment. And I've made choices to be that way. And of course, there are then these moments, like there came a day in my real estate job where I was like, fuck this. And then I made the transition. I started nannying. Okay. And then that was amazing for the time being. But like I was so happy in the present moment. And I always have been. Right now, if I were to live this day again and again and again and be where I am, amazing. I have a wonderful partner. I have my little yipper. I love what I do. Okay, I get to go on my walks. Like creating a life you live, creating a life you love right now today is like, number one, the only thing you can do, because also tomorrow's not promised, not to get dark. But number two, like I think that will best lead you to success. Like people, we sit here and compare and they have the house and they have the kids, but like you have no idea what their actual life is like. Okay. And you think like, wow, how amazing. But here I am 27 years old, like truly, and I'm not trying to convince anybody, but like, I think I'm one of the happiest people that I know, like just straight up. Okay. And I don't sit here and I don't compare and I don't, of course I want kids one day with Carter and I want to get married, but like, I'm so content right now. Okay. And so all of that to say, all of that tangent to say, focus on yourself and right now and do those little things. Like if you know there are areas in your life that you don't like, or for example, and I know this sucks, but like if you have a friend that you find yourself comparing yourself to and like maybe shy away from them for a second, like don't cut them off. It's not their fault that they might be succeeding at whatever the thing is. But I think getting rid of anything in your life that makes you feel unhappy, whoever you follow on social, getting rid of social media in general, I think that's where a lot of our comparison and jealousy and all of those feelings come from, because every single person's social media is their highlight reel. So it seems so much better than what it is. Every single person on social media is a human being just like you. They have their family issues. They have their relationship issues. Like, hello, you know what I'm saying? So honestly, get rid of social media. The best thing I ever did for myself was delete Snapchat, which you would think that's Snapchat of all places. Like what? But I think just like one less social media, amazing. The whole stories and like people partying and looking so happy all the time. Like number one, it was just like, it gave you FOMO when I don't even like going out. It just honestly helped a lot. I love that. And if I hadn't started like doing social media full time, I don't think I would have social media at all right now. I was like at this place where I was either going to delete all of my social medias or I was going to use it to like start a business. And I chose the latter. However, I think definitely reflect. And if you don't want to delete it, of course, like you can have healthy boundaries, but like get rid of all of the people that don't bring you joy. And I know on TikTok that's hard because you just see people, but I think again, like once you get content with your own life, like I see other people and I see the big houses and I'm like inspired. Like maybe back in the day when I was in college, I'd be like, oh my gosh, like fucking Emily Kaiser is 24. She has a kid. She just bought this big house. Like it looks amazing and perfect. And back then I would have been so mad and so jealous, but now I'm like, that's sick. Like that is so cool and good for her. And that's not my reality, but I still love my reality. You know what I'm saying? Okay, Brenna, quit preaching. Sorry. Okay, we'll get into the questions. How do I stop being retroactively jealous? And if you guys don't know what that means, being jealous of your partner's ex, that is like the most real feeling ever. And why the fuck do we do that? Number one, get off social media. Get off of her social media. I don't care if you have to block her. I don't care. But like, that's the only way we know this person. You're probably, odds are, not actually around this girl. You're stalking her on social, which is only hurting yourself. Okay. And number two, you have exes as well. Like we sit and beat ourselves up, but like think about if Carter right now was jealous of my exes. Oh my God. Like there's no reason to be. Like they, number one, are fucking losers. But number two, like they are past relationships and they served their purpose, but I would never want to be with them again in a million years. Like Carter is my person. So think about that. Like, yes, your boyfriend dated them, but you have exes as well. Okay. And then lastly, he's with you. He chose you. Now, unless he's still talking to her and being shady as fuck, that I'm not okay with. And that you should just break up with him because that shit is never okay. But if he's just like a cute, fun, innocent little boyfriend, but you just for some reason are fucking hyper fixating on the ex-girlfriend, just stop. You just have to have the discipline. Stop. It's only hurting you. And yes, she could be pretty. And like, again, I hope that my partner's ex-girlfriends aren't the worst. Like low key, you're like, okay, I kind of wish she was the worst, However, no, like that had its time. That's had its place. Just like my exes, it is what it is. Ooh, this was a good question. How to deal with a jealous partner. So if you have a boyfriend, or if you're a guy listening, which I don't think I have many guys, but if your boyfriend is a jealous person, again, I think it just comes down to communicating. Like, if he's psycho about what you're doing, number one, self-reflect. Like if you are doing shady things, like again, or even if you're not, but if you have guy best friends that you snap and he's not okay with that, if you actually love that person, I think that you would stop. And if you don't want to, I think it just goes to show that you probably aren't in that relationship as much as you want. Because like, for example, if Carter came to me and there was like something that I was doing within reason, like if he wasn't allowing me to breathe in a man's area, like that's toxic as hell. And I think, again, this is where those boundaries come in. You need to understand what you're okay with, not only your partner doing, but like back to you, like if he can't have you breathing in another man's area, like you have to look that man in the eyes and be like, that's crazy. And you're going to have to walk away. But if it's just like, he doesn't love that you have a guy best friend, honestly, I don't blame him. But again, I think the relationship will show, because I've had relationships in the past, like if not maybe boyfriends, but like guys I was talking to and they would get like clingy and jealous and I didn't give a fuck. Like clearly I just didn't like them that much. But if you actually care about your partner, I think you'll at the very least like communicate, and then maybe you can work through it with him. If it's like super harmless and you're like, babe, if it's something like he's being irrational about, you're like, babe, I can't put up with this because like I'm gonna go out with my girlfriends, and yeah, there are guys around, but like I love you, I'm with you, like reassuring him. And if you love and care about your partner, you would do that anyway. So I think just number one, communicate, and then go from there. Like decide if this is something, if he's being just an absolute lunatic, a loony, or if he's just being a boyfriend who's like has a few insecurities. Like that's normal. I think if you love him, you'll try and alleviate those. How to deal with girl best friends. I kind of already gave my 2 cents on this. You just have to decide what you are and aren't okay with and go from there. Like if he's like, nope, we've been friends since middle school and I need to talk to her all the time, he's probably not the one. Because like at the end of the day, and this might sound a little traditional, a little fucking psycho of me, but like your partner is your person. And especially as a man, like your woman, okay, us, we are going to give these men children. We're going to take care of all of their fucking shit for them. You know what I'm saying? if he needs this girl best friend for what, honestly. And it's just weird. Like, you are growing a family with your partner if you're of that age. Like, if you're younger, this might not probably pertain to you, but if you're my age, 27, if like Carter felt the need to have a girl best friend, like, I'm the one that's giving you children. We're building a life together. Like, that's fucking weird. No offense. And maybe I'm old school with my thought process. So I think, again, the hard thing is with boundaries, and I talked about this in that episode before, placing the boundaries and then actually following them. Like, it's easy to say, like, I wouldn't date a guy with a girl best friend. But then when you're in it, you're like, you let it slide for a little bit because you're trying to be cool and like, fine. But like, if you're not cool with that, he's not your person. Like, if he can't live without his fucking girl best friend, like his goddamn fucking childhood blankie, next. He's not the one. How to deal with innocent girlfriends. Okay, totally. Like, your boyfriend just having girlfriends. I think, again, in the school setting, like, for example, right now, like, Carter has girlfriends at school, and I'm in a place now where like I wouldn't think twice. And also, Carter has made it so clear since day one that I am his one and only. So like, I also think this is why I was saying this is nuanced. Like, if your partner doesn't make you feel that loved or cared for, like, jealousy really comes out. Because if you feel like your partner doesn't give a fuck if you live or die, and then he like is at school and he's like flirting and talking to all these girls, like, of course that jealousy is like so valid. But I think if you're in a healthy and happy relationship and it's just like, we still have these gross feelings, whether from a past relationship or just like being territorial. Like, yeah, if I saw Carter at school sitting in a group with like girls just like chatting, like that would rage. Like, even if I knew it was completely innocent, I'd be like, because I love him and I care about him and I'm territorial. But I think, again, going back to that thing, like focusing on you, again, talking to your partner, just like, again, giving little check-ins, like, I'm still, feeling whatever, I'm getting over it, but also deciding, like, is he acting a little bit crazy? Like, are his relationships too much? Again, that's for you to decide. How to deal with feeling jealous when my boyfriend goes to hang out with his friends instead of me. Here's the thing. Your partner needs to hang out with his guy friends. And I know sometimes I get this. Again, when I was younger, I probably would have been like, why aren't you hanging out with me? However, like, our individual friendships are so important and they need guy time. And like, you guys are together. Now, if it's every goddamn day of the week, like if every single weekend he puts the boys ahead of you, again, you need to assess, is that something I'm okay with or I'm not? But like, for example, with Carter, like, he goes and hangs out with his friend like once a week. And yeah, it was on the weekend when Carter was studying, we only got a little bit of time, but I also know that he needs guy time to like be a dude, and like friendships are just so important in general. So I think you're going to have to, again, sorry, don't mean to repeat everything I've ever said, but like, determine what's like normal and what you're okay with. Like, if it's all of the time, that is a little weird in my opinion. But again, everybody has a different perspective. And of course, where we are in life, like when you're in college, like, I feel like the boys hang out every night of your life. But as we're adults, like, it looks a little bit different. But if you're just a normal person in a normal relationship and like once, a week or every 2 weeks, he goes to hang out with the boys, it's so important and it's healthy and it's good. And also, time away from our partners is so good. So I think reframing it, like, it's not that he's choosing them over you. Like, that is not it at all. He's just hanging out with his friends and he probably sees you a lot, but just know that that's super healthy for him and it'll only strengthen your relationship. And also, when it comes to jealousy and like having these tight reins, I think showing that you're okay with certain things, like, that strengthens your relationship and that you trust him and things, which is also good, Oh, talk about past relationships and good memories or seeing past girlfriends and comparing myself. Okay, well, I talked about the retroactive jealousy, but talking about past relationships, I would challenge all my girls to like stop. Like, me and Carter never talked about past relationships because it's low-key not important. Like, it just isn't. And girls always say, but like, what if he cheated? Whatever. Number one, I highly doubt that man would tell you if he cheated. And number two, like, everything else, I guess, girls love to be like, well, I have trust issues and I just need them to know. They don't need to know that. You can communicate in the moment. Like, when, again, as we're talking about jealousy, just tell him, like, but I don't think you need to rehash your entire relationship because that's in the past. You went through that. You can work through that yourself or with the therapist, but like, your partner doesn't need to know the ins and outs of a relationship. And I think it's a lot healthier that way. Like, why would Carter need to know what happened between me and my boyfriend? Like, there is just no need. So I would challenge all of you to like zip it. I know as women, we want to know everything. Stop. Like, it only hurts you. It only hurts you. Oh, this was a bad scenario. She said, I'm so glad you brought this up. A while ago, I told my man to stop snapping girls. Found out that he still was. Which, again, you can't control them. So like, that's just number one. I told him again, he needs to stop or I won't put up with that. Good. There you go. That's what you need to do. Just like put it on the table. It's not an ultimatum. It's just, again, your boundaries. Okay. Sorry. Keeping it going. This weekend, we were drinking at a bar, saw him snap a girl. Immediately, he was apologetic and said it was nothing and removed her from Snap. I've let it go, but something doesn't sit right because it's not right, because he literally still chose to snap the girls after you told him you're not okay with that. That is him showing that he doesn't give a fuck about you or care about your feelings, or else he wouldn't do it. That's it. Oh, my boyfriend still has his exes posted on IG with the nicest captions that he would never say to me. Well, that is red flag number one. Like, if you genuinely feel like he would never say those nice things about you, I would unpack that. Because if you feel like he doesn't love you as much as he loved, but again, you can't compare, but like, that is just like a red flag all in all. But also, have you brought up to him that you don't like that? If you haven't, I would just like say to him. And again, if he cares more about having this post of him and his ex-girlfriend on fucking Instagram than your feelings, goodbye. But if you have mentioned it, and again, he chose to disrespect you, goodbye. But maybe you haven't brought it up and he just hasn't even like noticed. So I would just have a conversation. Okay, this is a good one as well. My boyfriend has a girl best friend and I don't mind them hanging out, but he thinks that I do, which then leads to him not telling me when they hang out. It doesn't make me jealous, but I don't get why he won't be more open. I've told him that I don't mind. Y'all just need to get on the same page. Like, I can understand kind of where he was coming from, because I get it. Sometimes we try and shield people from things because we think that they are jealous or that would make them upset, which I don't think is healthy. Again, I don't believe in having secrets, but I don't think he's doing it maliciously, but it also looks so bad that he's hanging out with her without telling you. So just be like, hey, babe, I do not care, but please, you have to tell me or else I can't do this, because then this is giving me trust issues. Like, you not telling me when you're hanging out with her is shady as fuck. That's what I would say. Past dating matches as Instagram followers / following, he wouldn't remove. See, the problem is the fact that he wouldn't remove. I go both ways. Like, back in the day, you know, I probably had guys that I barely knew, and like, should I have kept them? I don't know. But again, boys are like not as into the social media. But if my boyfriend, of course, I would go through the whole following and see that. But the problem is that you've asked him and he won't, which is red flag number one. He doesn't care about your feelings. Like, why? Especially again, like, and even in my past relationship, like, I thought for a while, like, we were end game. Not really, now that when I look back, but like, I got rid of every single guy that I had like talked to or whatever, because it's like the respectful thing to do, you know? So again, I would just get on the same page. Okay. And then lastly, you guys, the jealousy in life. Some people ask, you know, when people buy a house and get a family and they have higher paying jobs. Number one, I would say get off social media, because that's probably where you're seeing these things. And if it is a friend that you are close with and you just find yourself being jealous of that person, I think I would go back to the beginning of this episode and just go through what I talked about on how to stop being jealous in general. Again, focusing on you, like working on your mental and your physical and your emotional health is so important, and working on your confidence, because I have friends that are wildly more successful than me and doing better, quote unquote, just like on paper. However, like, I'm inspired by them, but it's because I'm in a healthy place now that like I'm so content with my life. So I would just work on you if you're in that place with like a friend. But if it's just stuff you're seeing online, number one, get off social media. Comparison is truly the thief of joy unless you're comparing downwards. If you're comparing with somebody who's doing worse than you, like, obviously that's going to make you feel better, but obviously that's not helpful to anybody, and that's kind of just being a little asshole. However, like, it's never helping. Like, it's not changing your predicament. So like, if there are things in your life that you're not happy with, start working on those. If like you're in a job you don't like or you want to make more, like either go to school or get some online courses or just apply to different jobs. Like, you've got to put your foot down and like do those things, or else you'll keep staying in the same job, doing the same thing again and again and again. You can sit and watch Martha over here keep excelling and getting promotions and all of these things because she's focused on doing that. She's doing her thing, So all you can do is control yourself. So whatever the thing is, if you're not in the best physical shape, like go on walks, start working out. Like if there are things you're unhappy with, start working on those things today, like right now. Time is moving whether we want it to or not. And so if you're not bettering yourself or like working on those things that you're unhappy about, if you want a life partner, like you've got to start dating. You've got to start going on dates. Like we all know what we need to be doing. And again, bettering yourself, the self-help books, the working out, the eating right, the sleeping, like those are all things we could be working on that will help us in every aspect of our life. That's why I preach it every goddamn day of my life. It is okay to notice what other people have, but it's not okay to beat yourself up over not having those things. Which, one quick story and then I'm going to go. The nanny fam, and this is the perfect example, and it might not even be that helpful, but nanny girl was in tumbling and her best friend was a better tumbler than her at this moment. This was like a year ago or whatever. And they had done a lesson together and we got home and she was crying and she was so angry. And it was like so clear at her practice that she was feeling insecure that her best friend was way better than her at tumbling. And she went upstairs and she was crying and nanny mom came in and we were kind of talking to her. I wasn't, nanny mom was. And she was like, okay, let's like talk through this. And again, this is like how it should be with your partner, which obviously this is a little different. However, it came out like, she was like, I'm just so mad that I can't do my aerial or whatever the thing was and that she can. And it's like so true. Like what I was just saying, just because somebody else has something or can do something, that little girl could do the aerial, like that doesn't take away anything from our value, number one, but like you can get there. You can be able to do the aerial. And nanny mom was saying like, we got onto the conversation of jealousy. Like she was trying to unpack like what those feelings were. And she was like, babe, like nanny mom's best friend, okay, is married. They have kids and they are like wildly successful. Like they have a house in Cabo in the Hamptons, like uberly. The nanny fam is successful themselves, but their friends are more successful or just have more money. No, let's not define it by success. However, she was explaining to her daughter, like, I'm best friends with her and like they have more, but like that doesn't take away, number one, we still live this like wonderful, beautiful life. Like, yeah, they have another extra home or whatever the thing is, but like I can be happy for her and I can be inspired by that. But like, what is holding a grudge and being jealous of this person gonna do? Like, how wonderful that you get to be friends with somebody that can do the thing or does have the thing. And I think it comes from a place of obviously being happy and content with your own life and building that, and you won't view everybody else's competition or having more or doing more. You know what I mean? Again, like I'm the perfect example. Like on paper, I live in an apartment. We're not married yet. We don't have kids. We aren't wildly successful. Carter hasn't even started working. And like, of course, I can compare ourselves to my friends my age. Like they work and they have more money and they do more things. But it's like, this is where we are right now. And that's okay. We are going to strive and get to whatever that life is that we want. And we're going to define that though. Like, I don't want to have the same life as somebody else. You know what I mean? So I think just like, again, focusing on us and what we want and getting very clear with that, and then start working on that. Like we are all in control of our own lives. Like you can create whatever life you want. So that's just my thoughts on that, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and I will see you guys next week. Okay. Bye guys.